Hello and welcome to another episode of FPL Expectations with me, Craig. And as I've mentioned before, this whole week we're going to look at team reveals from our expert panel. And on the Monday we had Philosophy, who showed us his current draft. And yesterday we had Joe FPL, who did that. We had a really good response to his episode. But today we have a new expert in the studio with me, and that's none other than FPL Mariner. Chris, how you doing, mate? I know you're stuck in Singapore, and you've had a lot of time on your hands to fiddle through the stats. You are known in the FPL community as a stat man. How you been?
Yeah, I'm all right, thank you, mate. Thanks for the invite to come on. It's a bit of a surprise, to be honest. That's all I do is mess with numbers, really. But and it seemed like on one day, official FPL retweeted me, and then boom, off it went. So yeah, it's nice to be here, and it's always good to have a chat about teams. And at the end of the day, we're just trying to improve everybody, aren't we? We don't, whilst we do compete in mini leagues, for pride and trophies these days, it's always nice to try and just help the community, all together. And at the end of the day, I watch your videos for exactly the same reason. So if I can help in any way, then that's great.
Perfect. Absolutely great. And I just want to touch on what you said just now, that whole official FPL retweeting you. I mean, just how big was that for you, and what was the response like within the Twitter community?
Well, it was quite strange, really, because all I did is I've done a couple of really brief sort of like single threads and this, that, and the other. And then I thought, right, okay, I did one, I think it was on mid-price forwards, I think it was, or something like that. And it got a few likes and the odd retweet, and a couple of mates did me a favor and retweeted it as well. And you know how it works.
Yeah.
But then, so the following day I thought, right, okay, I'm just put something together on cheap midfield assets, with the mind of, I'd already got Souček clearly in my mind from what I was doing. So I thought, right, I'm going to look into this in more detail. So I'd crunched the numbers. I put, 8 or 9 tweet thread together over a cup of coffee over lunch and pressed fire and fired it off. And it got a few retweets and this, that, and the other. I thought, this is nice. I got 1,000. And I was actually going into town for a drink with an old colleague. Yeah. And all of a sudden, my everything started to go mental on the phone.
Phone was blowing off, literally.
Before you knew it, there was like, it'd been I looked retweeted by official FPL. I'm like, what the hell's going on here?
Yeah.
And they went numbers, and I think I went from something like 1,000 followers, which I had a few followers because I'd been active for about a year doing bits and bobs, to about 2,500 followers in a few days. And now I think it's probably coming close to 3,000 now. So I'm doing the odd article these days. I think as much as I like to see the tweets and things like that, I think if you want to get into it properly, I think it's important to be able to put your thoughts down on paper. It's something I do with work, so it's not that difficult to be able to do it.
Absolutely perfect. Now, we're not going to waste any more time. We want to get straight into it, and I'm sure everyone out there, they're dying to see the team that you selected. For now, let's not forget, it's a current draft. It's not your final draft. No. But let's get straight into it. Let me just add this on here so everyone can see it. And there we go. Just talk us through the goalkeepers at first.
Right. Well, first things first, I termed this my post-Vinagre draft.
For obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons. We all had him, and now we're probably all taking him out. And to be honest, that then started to create me some problems because looking at the value for the 4.5 midfielders has just fallen away, in my opinion. So I'm really struggling with that, to be honest. And the decision regarding the goalkeepers, it was either Ryan or it was McCarthy. I always wanted to just spend 8.5 million on keepers. I did toy with the idea of rotating Ryan and McCarthy. Very quickly realised that I would back the wrong horse week on week, and immediately threw that into the bin. So I started, to be honest, even up till last night, I was on McCarthy, and to be honest, I've had a bit of a change of heart, and the reason is that I'm hunting around for some value in 4.5 midfield, and I think Walker-Peters actually provides that. And because of that, I don't want to double up on Southampton defence, and therefore I've switched it. But my thinking is Ryan, look, he's a good keeper. He's better than McCarthy on bonus points, in my opinion, because Brighton are not so good up front. So because the bonus points are, he's probably going to feature a bit more on bonus points as a result, in my opinion. And also, Brighton have strengthened up their defence quite well now with White, who apparently people rave about, listening to some of the podcasts. And I think there's also Dunk signed a new contract, and generally speaking, they look a lot more solid. Whereas Southampton, on the other hand, they've signed, I think, is it Salisu or whatever his name is, centre half, but they've lost Holberg, and I think that's only to Spurs' benefit. And to me, I'm not so sure whether Southampton will keep quite so many clean sheets as people think. So I'm looking at Walker-Peters for more of an attacking option, really. So that's roughly why I've gone down that route, I think. As for Peacock-Farrell, people will say, who is he? Well, apparently I had a stinker for Northern Ireland the other day.
He came from Leeds, didn't he?
I have no idea, but I like the name. It's a good name. So if nothing else, I'll put him in for that. No, seriously. He is Ryan's understudy. He is Pope's understudy.
Pope, yeah.
So for that purpose, that's fine. And also, because he's quite lowly owned, I'm not worried about price falling off him. Whereas Neeland, I think I've seen loads of people putting Neeland into the team. And the moment he loses his place, as is probably likely, when he
comes back, obviously.
Exactly. And for that reason, I can see him dropping in price. So I actually have gone for Peacock-Farrell, and that's the reason why.
And what about? I mean, a lot of people had done when they select Matt Ryan. Last season it was Button as the fodder keeper. Now Button's obviously moved on to West Brom. Just quickly going through the understudy for Ryan, and it's Walton, who's there. Don't fancy putting him in at 4 million instead. So in the event that someone like Matt Ryan does get injured or does get suspended, he comes in and it's a straight, you have a playing keeper straight away.
Yeah, I mean, it's a thought, but I mean, for now,
the name takes precedence.
Peacock-Farrell's not playing either. So, yeah, I suppose you could. Would I be worried about locking Brighton out with respect to attacking assets? I don't know. I mean, Mopai's a possible choice, perhaps, in the season. So I don't know that I'd want to be necessarily tripled up on them. But I mean, it is an option, and it's certainly a consideration. But as I say, Peacock-Farrell just hasn't moved. I decided quite early doors that this would be the way to do it. And it may be my theory behind Walton might well come to pass as well, because, let's say if he falls away, or let's say Brighton signs somebody else, then it could all change again. Yeah,
definitely. All right, we'll move on to the defensive line. And you got everyone's favourite in there, which is Trent. I don't think I've ever seen a draft, throughout the last month or so since the prices came up and FPL came live for this season. I don't think I've ever seen a draft without Trent in there. It's near impossible to have one without him, isn't it?
It pretty much is. But I think if you're looking at it short term, I mean, I'm looking at freeing up money all the way as we go. So, potentially I'm looking at downgrading Aubameyang. So there's going to be money there. But so, strictly speaking, I could even start with Robertson and perhaps move to Trent if I wanted to, if I needed money early doors. But I just can't see it. I think it's fear of missing out, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's so highly owned. If you're not on him, and he does bang, against Leeds, then the Mariner's not going to be particularly very happy. So no, I think he's there for obvious reasons. I mean, he's captainable. And I've not ruled out captaining him either.
Wow. Okay.
I have not ruled out captaining him.
That's very interesting. Very interesting. And it's something that I think we can touch on a little bit later on. But your other 4 defensive picks, I see Ferguson there, and obviously we can see the red flag next to his name. He's injured ahead of game week 1, but you still got him in your team.
Yeah, he's training. And, everyone hears that everyone's picking Mitchell, but Mitchell's an understudy to
PVA.
Yeah, PVA, that's right. And as a result, he's short term, and then I'm going to have to make a transfer, right? And my idea is one of the biggest problems I made 9, something like 9 non-wildcard transfers in defence last season. That's too many. So my idea is Ferguson is going to come right. I've got 4 fairly strong defenders there as well at the moment, albeit I've got problems with Justin, but I'll come on to that in a minute. But I see he's more of a slow burner. I think he will get into. I expect him to get into the team, and just around when Palace's runs turns more favourable, which is around game week 5. So I think you can see that as Brighton. It's just on the very end of the bottom ticker there. So as they get to that stage, then I think he's probably selectable at 4.0. If indeed there's some if indeed he's playing. So it's a little bit of a gamble, but look, it's 4.0, and what else is there out there? I mean, Johnson lasted about 20 minutes in the pre-season friendly for West Ham before he got hoiked off. I think
the other one is Neco Williams that people are looking at as well. But
he just takes Liverpool's spot up. Bernardo from Brighton. Yeah, I've already got Ryan. Not particularly interesting. If he moves somewhere else, that might be interesting. So there's just not much there. Branthwaite, I think he's down the pecking order. So there's just not much there really. So he's there for a reason at the moment, and that is just to fill a slot. And hopefully I might be able to get some value out of him in a few weeks' time.
Perfect. And the man that you were talking about just now, Justin.
Well, if you look at my metrics, he's right at the top. There's only Vinagre and Justin are absolutely at the top of them, and rightly so. I mean, he really does look he looks very attacking, and under normal circumstances, Leicester's defence is pretty decent, but they're just absolutely decimated. That they've got so many injuries and suspensions and this, that, and the other, and players coming in who, albeit are pretty new still. So I can't really quite work out where we are with them. I think he's good for a couple of weeks. Then there's Man City, where I would probably bench him anyway. Can I get to game week 4 with him?
Yeah.
I don't know. Pereira's on his way back. And he will obviously take that slot. Now, he could move across to the right, but of course, now they've signed, is it Castagne or whatever his name is?
Yeah, Castagne.
Signed him. Now that booted Thomas into the long grass quite quickly. He was one of my ideas.
The thing about Castagne, he can play left or right back, and that's another dilemma to face, isn't it? Is he going to take Justin's spot? Is he going to take Thomas' spot?
He can too as well. I think, to be fair, I think Justin can as well. I've been chatting with 1 or 2 of the Leicester correspondents. I have to say, you can't beat talking to the correspondents. I mean, they say week in, week out. I'll tell you all about Grimsby Town, mate. But I need to ask one about that because we're hopeless. But anyway, so I think he could change. He could change perhaps if I can find $500,000 to Egan. And despite me not being too hot on Arsenal, if Maitland-Niles looks like he starts, then he could become Maitland-Niles as well. So that's going to go right to the wire, to be honest.
And you touched on Walker-Peters a bit just now. You felt like Højbjerg. Obviously, there's no protection in front of that defence. Good player, though, in terms of attacking.
I like him a lot. And to be honest with you, I would love to have doubled up, but I haven't got the balls.
Yeah.
I'm a bit adverse, sometimes. That's sometimes where I go wrong. I don't know. Maybe it's a good thing.
And then it's Eric Dyer next to him.
Yeah, well, anyone who's been watching Netflix knows he speaks Portuguese, so that's good enough for me.
Oh god. Eric. Spurs is another one though. I mean, we look at it, and we know obviously with Jose there, defensively they'll probably be a lot more compact, a lot more tighter at the back. But what does Eric Dyer offer you? Is there anything from set pieces?
He does have a goal threat, albeit like you said, from set pieces. He is their vice captain, I think, so he's pretty much locked in as far as I can see. And as I say, like you've mentioned, Jose, he likes him. To me, because of his number of passes completions, he's a bit of a bonus point magnet. So if we get a clean sheet, and I mean if, but hopefully with Holberg now playing for them, that's going to make them stronger. Then I think Dyer could be an 8-pointer. Okay. So that's one reason why I quite like him. I put a poll out on Twitter about him and Davis came out top, and I didn't understand it, but I think it's the fact that Dyer's a bit unfashionable, So maybe that's the reason. Would I like to move to Doherty? Yes, I would. Will I move to Doherty? Probably, but not yet. I need some cash.
Yeah, I mean that's a big 1 million jump that you got to find from somewhere, and we know like every other manager, a lot of your money, a lot of your funds are taken up in this position, which is the midfield. I was speaking to Joe yesterday while we were doing his show, and is this the most exciting kind of midfield selection you've seen on FPL for quite a while or ever?
I don't know whether I'd use the word exciting. I think
it's more stressful for us, but I mean the selection that you have, it gives you real dilemmas, doesn't it?
Dilemmas is not the word. It really is. It's happening every day. I saw you yesterday. You'd put Rodriguez in, and I was immediately this morning because I have to say, I mean, look, there's two fairly obvious ones, and I think a lot of people have them. I mean, I'm an ex-cricketer, right? Okay. I love that term, flat track bully. And Aubameyang's one. He is an absolute flat track bully. And he is in for 2 games and he's gone, in my opinion.
So he's not every day.
No, he'll come back. And I'm not adverse to taking a hit to bring him in for a flat track bully match. And I may well do that this year. That's where I might try something a little bit different. But look, we've got Fulham and West Ham. I mean, Fulham, they conceded. I think they conceded a lot of shots, and quite frankly, I don't think they did particularly well in the Championship with respect to their defence. So they're clearly a relatively friendly fixture for him. West Ham at home, West Ham are in absolute disarray as far as I can see. They looked awful against Bournemouth at the weekend. I mean, so much so I immediately brought St. Maximin back in. Yeah. Because they just look dreadful. So
with Souček as well. Sorry, with Souček as well. He's still quarantined, isn't he?
Well, yeah, I think he is. But I mean, he would be in my team if he wasn't.
Yeah. Okay.
I'd save myself $500,000 somewhere. Yeah. I'd probably ditch St. Maximin actually, possibly for him. I don't know. I do rate him quite highly. But
his interest has kind of gone up with Fraser arriving, with Wilson there as well. I mean, the appeal to get him into your team is a lot more, and I know that from my perspective as well. Where I had my doubts about him, now after that Fraser Wilson signing, it's I've got to have him.
No, you're right, and I think if you looked at it in isolation, you'd probably look at Souček over St. Maximin, perhaps now. You may be looking at it the other way around. But I mean, I was listening to a pod earlier on, and we mustn't forget just how poor Callum Wilson was last year.
Yeah.
He was awful.
Was it 8 goals the whole season?
His stats, he's nowhere on my metric. I put all his numbers in. Once I realised he's nowhere. He's not even close. And I mean, I would have to tear my plan up if I was to go with him. I still might. I mean, God, I had him in my team last year at the start of the season. One of my first mistakes was to take him out after he returned to us. So no, I mean, I don't know. He's a bit of a nemesis to me, actually. Callum Wilson, but no, St. Maximin, he's great he's such a live one. I actually owned him for his 3 assists last year.
Oh, wow. Okay. Reaped the rewards for that one, didn't you?
And to be honest, I dumped him the week after, and it was a good move because he never actually came back.
Yeah.
He never did anything. I think I had him for 1 more week, and then I got him out. So no, he was a big reason why I actually, got up to the top of one of the mini leagues. Actually, he was a great differential. Obviously, he won't be this year. Not so much. He'll be much more highly owned. But no, I like him. I like him a lot, and he's gonna be, I think, a good asset. I'm just a bit concerned about Newcastle's fixtures going forwards. But if they play on the break, Maximum's going to be involved, right?
Yeah. And Salah over Mane. I mean, that's been another hot discussion within the FPL community. Salah has really looked off the ball, failed the eyeball test in the Charity Shield. I personally sat down and watched the Blackpool match, just hoping and praying like you get something from him to convince me to stay in the team. And yet again, no seven goals against Blackpool, and there's not even an assist for it. But he stays in your team.
He does for Trent Alexander-Arnold's reason.
Yeah, okay.
Because Trent Alexander-Arnold's been missing, and I think he gets the service from TAA, and I think he's a different player when TAA is on the pitch. So provided TAA does start, which obviously I'm banking on, then I think Salah will be fine, and that's my feeling. Look, you don't become a bad player overnight. But the only thing that's changed is that haircut, isn't he?
Can I just say something on that? Alexis Sanchez, we did see that with him. Bad player overnight.
Well, yeah.
So it is possible, but maybe not.
I mean, to be honest, that was when he changed clubs and then decided he didn't like them after one day as well, wasn't it? I think, or something. Anyway, but no, that's the reason why I think at the moment I'm with Salah. Look, I mean,
as well with penalties.
Yeah, he is, but I'll tell you what, he's on borrowed time. What I would say to you is if he doesn't perform, he's gone.
Wow.
And he will become probably Fernandes.
Ruthless. Well, and you get your extra cash there as well, don't you?
There's my cash to do other things. So, so that's what I'm thinking. The idea with this team, if everybody can see the whole thing, is that the idea is that I'm trying to play flexible. I'm not entirely sure what my move is to bring the Manchester United asset in. It could be Salah down to Fernandes or even Rashford. It could be Adams up. It could be Werner down. It could be Son up. It's very much dependent on who looks to be the better or the worst option on my team at the moment. And I think, given the amount of players that are out there, you mentioned it yourself, there's so many players out there at the moment. I think you have to be able to have that flexibility and price point to be able to jump around early doors. So I'm not adverse to taking a hit or two early doors at all.
Son Heung-min.
Yeah, he could become Ali actually if I needed some cash as well. The thing which bothers me about Spurs is their rotation and possible rotation. Even if they're not playing in the Europa League, they've got to go. They've still got to travel, And are we going to suffer as a result? So I don't know if I didn't see out the corner of my eye a few minutes ago that Ziyech is fit.
He's back in training, and they said he's fit.
If Ziyech is fit, he was in my original draft. So I'm not saying I would go to that because I've already got Werner. And I think that might be a little bit too much, I don't know, for a new side. But it could allow me to do something slightly different. But at the moment, I mean, look, at the end of the day, Son's a great player. He's highly owned again. And I think it's one of those ones where I think you need to have a certain... We obviously need differentials, but I think we need a little bit of structure as well, because otherwise it can go horribly wrong very early. As I mentioned earlier on, I was chasing the game last year, and it's not pleasant. I much prefer defending. I'm very much a get out. If I can get out high, get up to a reasonable start, and then particularly late in the season cover players rather than perhaps going the other way and having to chase the game. So my idea is to try and work my way fairly quickly. Obviously there's so much luck involved, but to try and get myself to a position where I'm not chasing it, if I can, and maybe Son's that way to do it. Whereas perhaps Ali could go crazy, but then again, if Son goes crazy and Ali doesn't, then
I think with Spurs, a lot depends on the formation and how Jose wants them to play, because we've seen in pre-season they've gone with 3 at the back, and if they do, does Son be that second striker alongside Harry Kane, which would increase his appeal, but at the same time that kind of affects Dele Alli, doesn't it? Because he doesn't get to play that number 10 role, plays maybe a little bit deeper. So I think this is the situation when there's not enough friendlies to look at, and it becomes a problem for FPL managers, especially because we kind of go into game week 1 without any real knowledge compared to previous years.
You make a brilliant point, because normally you'd be looking at pre-seasons. I mean, for example, look at the Wolves dilemma that we've got.
Yeah, exactly.
So I've seen Cody in drafts. I've seen Sice in drafts. Vinagre is still in drafts. Who knows what's going to happen? And we're not going to see, because we've not got any pre-season matches to even work out what Nuno wants to do. So it is a real challenge. It's going to be, and I think, and interestingly enough, I think for this reason, I don't think we're going to get too much of a template. I think it's going to be quite spread out to start with.
Yeah, correct.
Which it'll be quite interesting to see how this plays out. I mean, we'll look back on this and go, good God, Chris, what did you do?
It could go horribly wrong, couldn't it?
It could easily go horribly wrong, but to be honest, it could go horribly wrong for us all. I mean, people putting James Rodriguez into the side. Is he ready?
Yeah, exactly.
Is that? I know the Wolves assets, Nuno has a habit of bedding people in before he brings them on. So, but I mean, is Ancelotti just going to throw him straight in? How fit is he? Nobody knows. So, again, maybe Son's a safe bet. Maybe Son is a safe bet for me, rather than otherwise.
Right, we're not going to touch too much on Harrison Reed, because looking at your formations on the right hand side, I think he's just going to be a fodder for most of the weeks.
He's got 2 legs and he kicks the ball, right? For around 90 minutes, so that's great.
We're going to go straight on to the forward line, and Timo Werner, Dom Calvert-Lewin, and Che Adams.
Yeah, well, this is all about, again, this is where I've flip-flopped a little bit. You mentioned Callum Wilson. I've looked at him, and he could conceivably turn into Calvert-Lewin in game week 2 if I know that he's playing. But again, I don't really want to be putting transfers, planning transfers in advance. So I'm tempted to just give him a go. But to be honest with you, the more I see the signings that Everton make, the more appeal I see for Calvert-Lewin. He doesn't hit my stats, but he is, potentially, with the service that he can get, he is an excellent option. And I will not pick Richarlison, not for $1 million more.
Is that because you've been burned by him too many times, or value?
We've got serious past. Yeah, we've got some serious past, me and Richarlison. So no. I mean, with all honesty, if you look at who they've signed Decore, is it Allen, and now Rodriguez. That's going to change their dynamic entirely. And, I think Calvert-Lewin could have a breakout year this year. I think he could have an excellent season. And I think there's 3 really good fixtures, West Brom, Palace and Brighton, weeks 2, 3 and 4, where it could be gold. It could be a disaster. But, he's there at the moment. I mean, look.
One thing we know about Calvert-Lewin is that he blows hot and cold, doesn't he?
He does.
I mean, he's all about patches and spurts and things like that. So if he gets off to a good start, it could continue right up to game week 8 or something like that, and then it could flip again and he'll go cold. He's never really had that consistency.
No, but I think he scored in pre-season. So I think he scored in pre-season. I'm quite sure he has. But
he scored last week, yeah.
Yeah, so he scored in pre-season. So from that side of things, then that has to be. I mean, because he couldn't hit a barn door from a yard, could he? At the end of last season, really, he was dreadful.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm worried about. But again, could I watch and wait? Yes, I could. But who would I put in there? Would I put Mitrovic in? Well, he's playing Arsenal the first week.
Yeah.
And and then quite frankly, I don't know if you saw Mitrovic's heat map against Russia.
No, I didn't know. I missed that one.
He touched the ball 27 times, 4 times in the penalty spot. And the biggest was one big giant blob in the centre circle where he'd been. In 9 he touched the ball 27 times and he's had 3 shots and scored 1 goal.
Yeah. I mean, you don't expect a lot of running from Mitrovic anyway.
But I mean, again, if there's any, I didn't own him when he was in the. I withheld owning him the previous year before last, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And I mean, look, he looks a good player, but is he going to get the service? I'm not convinced he is. I mean, look, he may well pop up and score a few goals, but Fulham are no great shakes going forwards. And that's my concern. So maybe Calvert-Lewin with all his new ammunition loading up for him might be a decent option. I'm
just gonna butt in and throw a name here, which I haven't seen in a lot of drafts, and who I think for his price tag is going massively under the radar. And yes, I know obviously with the first game week he misses out, but Chris Wood. Now, Chris Wood, we've noticed, is proven, scores in the Premier League. You can talk about creating chances and Burnley not really good on the eye, but he gets goals. I mean, with someone like Dwight McNeil behind him, you expect some sort of creativity. He's the main man in that team. Like I said, misses the first game week, which is probably why he's not highly as owned as he should be. But is that someone that crossed your mind at any stage and save a 0.5 there with Calvert-Lewin and go with a 4-4-2 or something like that at the start?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, look, I've got 2 people who I can move into if I want to. And that's the idea. We're going to be hunting for these assets, which, we're going to have to move fairly promptly if we want to, possibly. So look, I mean, I've not got Burnley's fixtures up. I can't see who they're playing. I think they've got Southampton looking around.
So they start off with Leicester. And they've got Southampton, Newcastle, West Brom, and that's their first 5 fixtures. And Spurs, Chelsea. I mean, it's horrid after that because they got Spurs and Chelsea back to back.
Yeah, I mean they are away for the Leicester and the Newcastle game by the looks of things.
Yeah.
So, and they're not particularly very good away from home, are they?
No. I mean, they play better at Turf Moor. Certainly
not against the bigger teams. I like Chris Wood, and he was in my draft before the fixtures came out.
Okay, fair enough.
So I do like him. He's a good player, and
he's a good FPL asset, isn't he?
He's involved. He's involved, and I think that's what you want from a somewhere around a 6 million sort of price point, because everybody knows what Werner can do, and I don't think we even need to talk about it too much. The guy's a potential gold mine this year. It's actually these other 2 slots which I've got a problem with.
And Che Adams taking up a Southampton slot. No Danny Ings.
The Che train, right? That's what we do, isn't it? Yeah. All aboard. I can, if required, do some jigging around and make him into Ings. He has been Ings. The safe bet is Ings to start with. But that does give me a route into Martial if I wanted to go to Martial, but rather without taking Werner out. So I've not discounted that, but by doing that, then that probably means Calvert-Lewin going down to junk status, and again that then starts to just mess with the flexibility a little bit. And I think I'm not adverse to putting Rashford in.
Oh, okay.
That's interesting. Yeah, I'm not adverse to putting Rashford. He does, again, another one who blows hot and cold. But he's $1 million cheaper. He's moved into midfield. I think if he stays fit, he could get very close to 200 points.
Wow, that's a big shout. That is a big.
If he stays fit.
Yeah.
But I mean, again, he's only a young lad, isn't he?
He is.
They're all only young lads, and and I think.
I think the beauty about Rashford as well is that he obviously didn't go with the England squad. He pulled out of the English squad early on.
That's
and
right.
It's not that he couldn't have played for England. I think he's still training. So he will be available for the first game week for United, which is, a week later than everyone else. It's Crystal Palace as well that they got straight up, which, is very tasty. Licking my lips, rubbing my hands, everything.
Yeah. I've had people on the bench and all sorts. But I'm just a little bit, I'm a bit COVID aware, I've got a horrible feeling we're going to see quite a few last minute dropouts, and maybe even, hope not, but maybe even the odd postponement. So I think you do need to have a little bit of flexibility, and that's why I've gone with this draft. As I say, I've got a couple of drafts. I could have shown you another draft, actually. I got another one which has got Ings in it, but I've showed you this one because, to be honest with you, I like the flexibility of this one. I like the idea of being able to move up, down, left, right with it. And that's the reason, really. But, I mean, look, Adams, he passes the eye test.
Yeah.
He looks like, according to the correspondence, it's Lucy, I think it is, who was talking to on Twitter not so long ago. I think, she seems to think that he's probably got that starting slot alongside Ings, and he's better. I think his numbers were better than Ings at the end of last season.
Yeah, I think post lockdown.
Because
he did score for Southampton right up to that point, didn't he?
Yeah, and I managed to stumble across some highlights of them playing Swansea pre-season. I think they played 2 1-hour games, and I tell you what, Adams was absolutely amazing. So I'm feeling about him. I think, don't get me wrong, Ings is the safe move, and it may well be I start with Ings, and then if Adams starts to perform, then I'll make some money that way and come down. Sometimes easy to go down and go up, wasn't it, with the price changes and things?
Yeah,
so we'll see. But I mean, I'm just a little bit. It's a little bit punty, my forward line. That's it's probably my concern. Do I need one more relatively nailed? I think Calvert-Lewin's nailed.
I was just going to say, I think it's
nailed. But I think for game week 1, we don't really know what's going to happen. I think, look, if I put Calvert-Lewin in, it is in for 4 or 5 games, and I think I think you have to do it that way. And again, one thing I'm trying to do with one of the things that I'm working with my numbers is looking at the number of returns that a player actually has. And for example, he's got like 7 million, I think he is. So I'm counting a certain number of games back and looking for a certain number of returns. And on the basis of that, then it's almost like a flag to say, you're on the watch list to go. I'm still comfortable that you've returned every 3rd week or every something like that. So I'm actually not too worried. But again, I'm all about trying not to take hits because I took too many. And so that's the rough idea. I mean, it'll be an interesting view to see what other people have to say when they watch the video. But,
yeah, definitely.
Calvert-Lewin, I know Twitter's a little bit of a bubble, but there's a few people talking about him, including one or two quite astute managers are actually talking about him. It's not, the Mariners spotted this, and I don't mind admitting I've got a lot to learn. I think we all have.
All right, that's your team. I'm just going to touch on something which, very briefly. Let's just whiz through it. And it's your wildcard usage. Are you planning to go early, or are you one of those that is saving it for later on when there's a blank week? I think just before Christmas, or are you in the kind of mindset where you use it if you severely need to early on? If there's major surgery that needs to be done. And then you're going to use it, or have you set in your mind, I'm saving it till the blank game weeks, or I'm set on doing it early?
I don't want to use it. I am planning to use it around game week 16. I think number of people. I've used it early in the past and suffered. I've also used it early in the past and saved myself from a complete meltdown. So, look, I mean, if it's going completely wrong, then I may well use it, because I managed to navigate the second half of the after post lockdown, without a second wildcard. I played it before that, so from that point last year, I managed to get all the way through and continually rise the ranks during that time without using the wildcard. So it can be done. You've just got to spend most of your life on Ben Crellin's planner. But no, I don't want to use it. Okay. I think the idea is, as I say, I'm not adverse to taking a hit or two, but I am trying to plan it. I've got Aubameyang, as I say, likely to leave in game week 3 for KDB, possibly Sterling, but more likely KDB. I like the fixtures for KDB rather than Sterling. And and again, people like Salah isn't by no means locked in. Not from.
Okay, like every show that we've done earlier this week, we're going to go straight into the community questions. I did tweet earlier on that you're going to be on the show, so we had a few people from the FPL community wanting to know your thoughts on certain issues. And the first one up is Vincent, and he asks, who's the best Newcastle United attacking asset? Saint-Maximin, Wilson, or Fraser? Now, sorry, Almiron, Wilson, or Fraser. He said ALM as opposed to A. But I know you selected Saint-Maximin in your team. But out of those three, Wilson, Fraser, or Almiron, who would you pick?
Wilson, Fraser, or Almiron? Fraser had a bad season last year.
Yeah,
very bad. Now, was that because he was just out of favour and fell out in an argument with somebody in Bournemouth? Is he going to come back firing? Who knows? I think, was it 2 years ago? Wilson and Fraser had.
Yeah, a couple of seasons ago.
Yes, so, who's the cheapest? Is it Fraser?
I would think it would be Fraser. Yeah.
It's a tough one. I think if Callum Wilson gets going, then it would be Callum. I think if I had to nail my flag to a mast now, I'd probably go with Wilson. Probably. But Fraser, if he starts, Wilson would very quickly become Fraser for me.
Almiron and Fraser are the same. They're both 6 million.
And half. Sorry, are they both the same? And I mean, Almiron's been a bit wasteful, hasn't he?
Yeah. Fantastic player. I love him. Beautiful left foot.
I mean, I've had him a couple of times. I've had him in a team a couple of times, but
FPL returns wise, there's not much there, is there?
He's great on the eye, but not very good on the bank balance. So no, I think for me, Fraser is going to offer you probably assists to someone like Callum Wilson. I'm just a little bit wary of all of them. But if I had to pick one now, you'd probably go Almiron, because I think he's going to start. Whereas, do you know what I mean? But I mean, in a couple of weeks' time, who knows? But I'm going with ASM.
It was Almiron, Fraser, or Wilson.
No, but I'm saying I'm going with Alan.
Oh, so you say ASM?
Yeah. I'd still stay with that. So if I had to nail to the mast, I think, like say, Callum Wilson is probably a better long-term choice. But who knows?
All right, and the next question is from @VRuben. He wants to know your thoughts on captaincy between Oba and Salah for game week 1. Who would you go for? Sorry, they put you on the. Yeah, they have it.
Earlier on. No, I think if I had to go with one for the first game, I think I fancy the home fixture. I think I fancy Salah at home with TAA coming back in. I do have this sneaky suspicion about TAA. I mean, a lot of people underrate the idea of captaining TAA as an asset, from the point of view of a defender. But look, if he's got fairly locked in clean sheet, there could be one return there before you even start to get anything else. So I think, you know, I did captain Doherty last year actually, and he got quite a few. He got clean sheets and returns. So it's possible, but I think it'd probably be Salah. It could be Orban, but I don't know. I find he's a bit of a flat, like I say, he's a flat track bully, but I think I'd probably just side with Salah. But I have to say, I know what you're saying about the eye test. It is a concern.
Yeah. All right. That's all the time we have for Chris. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us. It's been absolutely fantastic. This will not be the last time we're having you on. It's just the start of the season. We've got a long way to go, and we'll definitely be needing your expertise. If you don't already, do follow Chris on Twitter, FPL_Mariner, for all your updated stats. Fantastic, and some really detailed threads on there. So if you want some help on your FPL teams, this is one of the men to follow, FPL_Mariner. Chris, once again, thank you so much for coming on the show.
No problem, mate.
And a big thank you to everyone there for watching this show. We'll be back tomorrow. We're going to get another team reveal from one of our experts. But until then, take care. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to FPL Expectations and do give this video a like. Take care.